In this lesson, we're going to begin to discuss character formatting. If you'd like to follow along, go under the File menu to Open, and in the Working Files folder, go into Chapter number 6 and select Character Formatting and just click Open. Before we begin, I just want to zoom in a little bit on this page. So you could hit your Z key to get to your zoom tool very quickly, and then just click and drag across the top of your page. Also, I want to make sure that you're using the typography workspace. If it doesn't say typography in the workspace pop-up, click down on that pop-up and choose typography. If it still does not look like my workspace, click down again and choose Reset Typography. I'm going to switch to my type tool and just select my first subhead. And I'm going to open the character panel. And I want you to notice that you can do character formatting in the character panel as well as the control panel. If your control panel looks different than mine, you may have clicked on the paragraph formatting controls. It's the paragraph symbol to the left. And what that does is it lists first paragraph formatting controls, and then whatever room it has left over on your computer screen, it will start giving you character formatting controls as well. I'm going to click on the A, which is the character formatting controls. And why don't we start by going to the type family field. And you can see right now it's using Minion Pro Regular, which is the default typeface in Indesign. If I wanted to use some other typeface, I could click down on the arrow to the right of the field, and I can actually use a new feature in Indesign, which allows you to search for the typeface that you're looking for very quickly. The way you would do that is select the type family field and just start typing the beginning of the name of the font that you're looking for. I'm looking for Adobe Garmin Pro. So what I'm going to do is type G-A-R-A, and it went to Adobe Garmin Pro, and I'm going to choose Regular. So I automatically selected the style name at the same time. So that's really nice. But maybe what I want is for the style for my subhead to, instead of be regular, I want it to be bold. Well, if I click the little arrow to the right of the style names, I can choose bold. Let me select my first paragraph of body copy. And I'm also going to make that Adobe Garmin. So I'm going to select my field and start typing. This time I'll do Adobe. And you can see there are a lot more Adobe typefaces. So I have more to go through, but I can choose from the pop-up that's available Adobe Garmin Pro Regular. Now, all of this is a lot easier than going under my pop-up menu and scrolling through all of the typefaces that I have on my computer, because there may be a lot of them. And you can see there are different formats of type. Anything that has a lowercase red a, that's PostScript Type 1, which was the first format of typefaces that were available when desktop publishing first started back in 1984. I'm going to go up to the top of my menu again and show you there are other formats. The TT combination, that's TrueType. The slanted gray O is OpenType, which we're going to talk a lot more about OpenType in an upcoming lesson. Another thing that I can do is show just my favorites. Any typeface that I click on the little star to color it in, it's one of my favorites. And if I go to Show Favorites Only, it's only going to show my favorites. So that can make my search for my typeface even quicker. I'm going to click off of this pop-up And now we're ready to continue. The next section has to do with the size of my type. I'm going to select my headline, the very first paragraph. And you can see right now in the type size or point size field, it's 16 points. Now I could click my up arrow to the left of that field to make it 17 or 18. It's going up 1 point at a time every time I click on the up arrow. I could also click the down arrow to make it go down 1 point at a time. There's a pop-up immediately to the right of my point size field, giving me a bunch of other standard sizes. Let me click off of that. The next field has to do with leading. That's the space between your lines of type. And let me select my body copy paragraph again that I started to format. And you can see that right now that is 12 points. And the amount of leading is in parentheses. It says 14.4. What is that about? Well, if I click down on the pop-up menu, you can see it's using something called auto leading. It's checked by default. Auto leading is whatever your point size is, it's automatically making the leading 1.2 times whatever that point size of your type is. Let me click my down arrow next to my point size for my body text, and you can see now it's 12. And 1.2 times 10 is 12, so it is the right amount. But maybe I don't want extra leading. I want my lines of type to be closer together. I'm going to go under that little pop-up, and I'm going to choose instead 11. So now it's 10 point type on 11 points of leading, and you can see there are no parentheses around the leading. That means that it's no longer using the default auto. Let me go back to auto so you can see the difference. The next field has to do with something called kerning. Kerning is the spacing between the characters. By default, it's using something called metrics. Metrics are the spacing that the typeface uses automatically that is built right into the typeface. It's using something called kern pairs that are built into the font. Now, what that is, it's all the possible combinations of characters. So whenever there's a lowercase a next to a lowercase a, it's going to be a certain amount of space. Lowercase a next to a lowercase b, there's going to be a certain amount of space. And it goes through all the possible combinations of characters, except for numbers. Numbers do not have metrics. So they all use exactly the same width for their spacing. Why does it do that? To make sure that the numbers line up correctly in columns. But that ignores the fact that sometimes, let me just zoom in a little bit on my paragraph here. Sometimes there's numbers within running body text, and the spacing looks absolutely terrible. And that's because the number 1, let me just select the number 1, uses exactly the same amount of space as any of the wider characters. So anytime you have a 1 in running body text, it looks like there's way too much space around it. Well, Adobe knew that there were issues with metric kerning. So they developed another kind of kerning called optical kerning, which was introduced when Indesign 1.0 was introduced. Let me show you how that works. I'm just going to select my whole paragraph here, so I'm going to click 4 times. And I'm going to go to the kerning field that says metrics by default, click on the arrow to the right of the field, and choose something called optical. And you can see now the spacing around that 1 is a lot better. Well, what is optical kerning? Optical kerning, if you select it, ignores all the metrics that are in your type, and it will instead space the type according to the relative shapes and sizes of the characters that are next to each other. So curves may be closer together. Smaller characters such as quotes may be closer into the letter next to them, and so on and so forth. So why don't I just use optical all the time? Well, I do use it a lot, but there are certain times you should not use optical kerning. Like for instance, if I have numbers that are in columns. If I use optical kerning, the spacing between those numbers in columns will be absolutely beautiful, but the numbers will not line up in columns to make them easy to add up. Another time that I would not use optical with certain script typefaces, the kind of script typefaces that connect from one character to the next. If you use optical kerning, while the spacing may be absolutely beautiful between the characters, the connecting parts of the characters may not line up correctly, so you have to use metrics. In the next lesson, we're going to continue discussing character formatting.